Hi everyone, it's Allison. Welcome back to the Tiny Herd. So today I just wanted to do a quick little update for you guys and let you know what's going on. So I'm sure you can tell from the title, or if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, we did lose Freddy this week. So it happened on Friday. So I'm just gonna let you know what all happened and kind of what is going on at this point. So Thursday everything seemed fine. He was totally fine when I put him to bed. He ate fine that day. I didn't notice any issues with, like, his poop didn't look weird, he didn't seem sick at all, he just seemed totally fine. And then Friday morning I had to get up really early for work. I had to travel, so I just had to do day travel that day, so I had to, about a 2-hour drive, so I had to get up really early. So I had to leave my house by 6, so I checked on the pets around, I'd guess, like 5:30, which is about an hour to an hour and a half earlier than I normally check on them. And when I went in there, I gave them their pellets, but I didn't see anybody come out. So usually Freddy and Georgie are both like right up on the edge of the cage. They always want to know what's going on, and they always want to kind of get attention that way. And I kind of was just like, okay, what's going on? So I saw Georgie and he was up top eating hay. So I was like, oh, okay, Georgie's just eating hay, because he doesn't really care about pellets that much. So since he was already eating, I think he just didn't care that I was putting pellets down. He usually is not super fussed about them. But Freddy was still in his igloo, and he does sleep very hard. Like, sometimes he will not wake up until you like put food under his face, and then he'll wake up to eat it. But I was like, okay, maybe he's just sleeping really hard. So I kind of like got down and peeked in the igloo, and I just knew immediately that something was wrong with him, because he just was all hunched and his fur was all puffed out and his eyes were just all like gross and crusty and runny, and he looked really bad. And he also had pretty bad diarrhea, because he was covered in poop on his belly. Like, I could just tell he had just been laying there. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what was going on, because like I said, when I put him to bed, he was totally fine. Like, I remember I had kind of laughed at one point because I had been sitting in the pet room right before I put them to bed, and I like saw him walk over and like look out the window, because their cage is right next to the window. So I remember he was like looking out the window, and I was like, that is hilarious. I wonder if anybody outside can see this guinea pig sitting in the window. And he was just like perfectly fine. And then the next morning, like, I could tell he was very sick. So I woke my boyfriend up, actually, which was super early for him to be woken up, but I was like, Freddy has to go to the vet today. Like, he looks really bad. So I had to leave. I had to leave by 6. So I actually left to travel for work, and the vet didn't open until 7. So I was still driving at 7, but I called the second they opened at 7 and tried to make an appointment, and I'm really glad I did, because we got the only appointment that they had until like the middle of next week. So we got an urgent care appointment scheduled for 9 o'clock that morning, and my boyfriend got him and took him down there, and the vet saw him, and honestly at that point, like, he didn't seem that bad. Like, he was obviously dehydrated because he had diarrhea, and he was pretty cold because it had gotten cold here overnight and we don't have our heat on yet. So it got a lot colder in there than we expected. So he was cold and he was dehydrated from the diarrhea, and we couldn't really get him to eat that much. So like, we were syringing him water so that he could try to get some fluids back. At the vet, I didn't take him to the vet, my boyfriend did, but the vet gave him IV fluids to try to get him hydrated again. They gave him antibiotics, and like, we got antibiotics to continue to give him. And then what else? She said try to keep him warm because he's very cold. So that, I think that's everything that the vet said. Oh, and she said he had a lot of bacteria in his poop, which it was like normal bacteria that you would expect to see, but there was a lot of it. So she really just thought that it was diarrhea. She was like, he could have eaten something bad or something like that, because he didn't seem like he had any type of infection or like a respiratory infection or anything. He just seemed like he had diarrhea, and that, like, that's all she could really tell. Like, she couldn't tell that he had like a respiratory infection or like anything like that. She said he seemed like he sounded fine, other than the fact that, you know, obviously he was sick. So that's what we decided to go with. My boyfriend brought him back home and had to go to work, and I got home around 1:30. And when I got home, I got him out of his cage and got a heating pad and got him on the heating pad to try to warm him up. I tried to syringe him a little bit of water, and he did drink a little bit of it, and then I tried to feed him a little bit. And I had put him in the travel cage, like without the bars on it, because we use like a pet store cage as his travel cage, and I took like the bars off of it, so he was just laying in the plastic tray, which I had like fleece and stuff down. But I laid him in there on his heating pad, and he was just laying on his side, which was, I mean, it's not like he was comfortably laying on his side. Like, he was laying on his side like guinea pigs don't lay on their sides. And I just didn't have a very good feeling about it. And I was trying to get him to eat, and there came a point where I could tell that he just was done, because I would syringe water or food into his mouth and he wasn't even trying to eat it. He just was letting the water fall right back out of his mouth. So I knew at that point that this probably wasn't going to end well, and I didn't want to keep trying to make him drink, because he was starting to have a really hard time breathing. He was breathing really heavy, like he couldn't get enough air into his lungs. He was breathing really slow. So at that point, I took his heating pad, and I took him back to his cage, and I put him in his cage, just laying sideways on the heating pad on another pad, so that he was just nice and comfy. And I put another pad on top of him to try to keep him warm. And this is like the really sad part to me, but sorry. So at that point, I knew that he wasn't gonna make it, because when I put him back in his cage, he started like like he was breathing through his mouth, like taking a deep breath through his mouth each time he took a breath. And if you don't know, guinea pigs cannot breathe through their mouths. They cannot live breathing through their mouths. They are, the way their respiratory system and nasal passages are set up, they have to breathe through their nose. That's just how their system works. So when he started breathing through his mouth, I knew that it wasn't gonna be very long. And I actually even had the thought that he probably needed to be put down. And then immediately I was like, we're not gonna have time for that, because our vet is 30 minutes away, because it's in the town where I work, and I work 30-40 minutes away from where we live. So at that point I was like, I'm just gonna leave him here in his cage, and I'm just gonna sit here. So I sat there and talked to him, and at one point Georgie came over and kind of like touched noses with him and sniffed him and kind of was just checking him out, and then he wandered off. And then I was just sitting there, and I kind of knew at that point, so I picked him up and held him. So I picked him up and held him, and that's all I could really do. And then I told my boyfriend, and he came home for a little bit. and that kind of was just how it happened. We did everything that we could. I don't know what caused this. I don't know what happened. We think that maybe he had some bad lettuce or there was something in his tomato. I don't really know. That's the only thing we can think of because Georgie's fine. Like, he doesn't show any signs of catching anything, or like he's totally fine. He doesn't look sick at all. He's eating, drinking, his poops look fine. Like, he seems totally fine, and everybody else does too. I had noticed that one of the bunnies had a little bit of runny poop like earlier in the week, so I'm thinking that some of their veggies were bad, and it just didn't, I mean, the bunnies are so much bigger than the piglets, like it just didn't affect the bunnies, and somehow everybody else missed it. I don't know. I don't know what caused it. I don't know why he got sick. I don't know what he had. He didn't really have any symptoms of like a respiratory disease or anything, other than his crusty eyes, but I think that was just him, like, he wasn't grooming, he wasn't cleaning himself that whole night. Like, he just was miserable and laying there, and I could tell he was uncomfortable because he would like lay on one side and then he would flop over and lay on the other side. So I think that was just him not being healthy. But his nose was fine and his teeth looked fine to me. I don't know. He weighed 2 pounds at the vet, so it's not like he was losing weight. Like, there's nothing that we could have done. And there's no way we could have caught it. Like, he wasn't losing weight. He weighed 2 pounds. He was a normal size. He was his normal size. He didn't show any signs of anything on Thursday. Like, I didn't notice any changes in their poop or behavior or anything earlier in the week. It just was that morning he all of a sudden had diarrhea all night, and I think other than getting up in the middle of the night and checking on him, there's no other way we could have figured this out. And honestly, that wouldn't even really have probably done any good because we still couldn't get him to the vet until that morning. And I don't get up in the middle of the night and check on the animals. Like, that's just not that's not practical. We have cameras in there, but I mean, I sleep through the night, so it's not a realistic thing for checking on everybody in the middle of the night every night. And like I said, that probably wouldn't even have helped him. I think he just got too sick too fast and hid it from us too well, and then it just was too late to get him back from being dehydrated. And I think he just lost too much body weight before we found him, or not body weight, body heat, because he was cold, like a little bit cold when he went to the vet. So I think he just lost too much body heat and fluids overnight that we couldn't get him back from it. So I wish I had a better reason for why this happened, but we don't really have an explanation. We did everything we could. I mean, we tried to force feed him, we tried to give him water, we tried to keep him warm. We got him to the vet as fast as we could. He started his antibiotics right at the vet, so there's nothing else we could have done. I was just glad at least that I got to be home and he wasn't still at the vet, or he wasn't just here alone. I think I've processed this a little bit better than when Luna passed away, just because since I was home and trying to take care of him, I could see that this was not going to end well. I could just tell at that point that it wasn't going to end well, and I kind of was able to process it as it was happening, instead of like with Luna. I was completely shocked. I didn't think she was as bad as she was, which I think she had a stroke, so I don't think there's anything that could have been done in that instance either, but I didn't expect to find her. And I think with Freddy, I was able to process it a little better as it happened. because even my boyfriend says he was a little bit relieved just because we didn't know what to do and we could tell he was suffering. And I would rather have it be quick like that, and instead of, you know, we could have caught it a little earlier and him suffered through the whole weekend and then still not made it, and that would have been so much worse. So these guys just hide their illness until it's too late sometimes, and we did everything that we could. So what we're doing at this point, we took Freddy to our vet, dropped him off, and they will send him out to be cremated, so we will get his ashes back. I don't know if you guys remember the tile that I ordered for Luna. I'll show that sometime soon, probably not in this video, but I will show that sometime soon. But we got like a ceramic tile from Shutterfly made for her, so I ordered one of those for Freddy. So we will be getting Freddy's ashes back in a couple weeks. We'll do something nice to put him on the shelf with Luna, and he'll have his tile. And then probably wondering what is going on with Georgie. So for now, Georgie is going to be just a lone pig. He has his cage has been completely sanitized, disinfected. I washed the whole thing down and rinsed it really good, and he got all fresh fleece. I threw away all the toys that had been in their cage. The only things that are still in there that were already in there are his hay bags and his willow tunnel. So everything in there is fresh and clean. So we just, with the bacteria that was in Freddy's poop, we just didn't want to risk anything also getting spread to him, since we don't know what caused this. We don't know what this is or if it's contagious. I cleaned all his stuff. His cage is as clean as it can get without replacing the chloroplast. So he seems to be doing okay in there. He, like I said, is going to be a lone pig. We're going to see how he does with being a lone pig, and if he seems like he needs a friend, we will cross that bridge when we get to it. He's 3 years old as far as I know, and he definitely was pushed around a little bit by Freddy, just because Freddy was the dominant pig. So I think for now we're just gonna let him be a lone pig and enjoy his time being alone at the moment, and then we'll kind of assess how he does going forward, and if we need to try to find another piglet for him to be matched with. I'm just a little concerned with like him being 3, and should we match him with a boy, or should we try to find a spayed girl, or there's just a lot of logistics with that, and I'm just not at the point at the moment where I want to look into all that stuff. So right now he's gonna be a lone pig. We'll just see how it goes. Because I mean, obviously I would prefer for him to have a friend. So we'll just see how it goes at this point. And that's all I really got for today. I just wanted to let you guys know that happened, and what happened, and what we're doing with Georgie going forward, and how things are. So probably didn't enjoy this video, but thank you guys for watching. And just a side note, I'm making some changes and kind of branding changes to the website and Instagram, so you guys can keep an eye out for those. They've already started to roll out, but you guys let me know what you think. So sorry today's video was not very fun. Definitely not something that I want to be making. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.